just go when I talk. Good morning, everyone. So I've been looking at the weather recently, and I know you guys remember how cold it was last month with the rain and all, but I'm sorry to inform you that it's actually going to be colder than that for next week. For the area of San Diego State, it was reported to be as low as 20 degrees. Now I know that may be surprising, but what if I told you that was actually Celsius? See, if I had told that to anyone out of a group of 6.75 billion people on Earth, that's 94.7% of the population, they would have known what I was talking about. That's because that's how many people use the metric system. I've done extensive research into this matter, and I found multiple websites and resources as to why the United States should adopt the metric system. First, there are the various problems with the current imperial system and the reasons to change. Second, how the imperial system came to be and why it's a problem today. And lastly, why a metric measurement is a solution and what you can do to reap its benefits. First, Randy Bancroft, at his Nerd Night presentation in Denver, Colorado, stated that in Australia during the 1970s, there was a construction company that wanted to test which unit of measurement was more efficient and would save them more money. They built two homes with the exact same dimensions, and when they were both finished, they found that the Imperial home had two 5-ton trucks full of waste afterwards, whereas the metric had less than a wheelbarrow. Next, as early as 1902, the Journal of the American Medical Association put out an article strongly suggesting medical practitioners to use milliliters, the metric system, instead of imperial system, teaspoons and tablespoons. The reason being was because many people kept confusing the abbreviations for both, and they work at a factor of 3, which means that if you took 2.5 tablespoons of what was originally supposed to be in teaspoons, your overdose would be by more than double. This issue was reported again in 2014 by the association, stating that nurses and even parents alike sent as many as 98,000 people to the ER and sometimes death. Lastly, a very major problem with having to use 2 units of measurement can be showcased with the Mars Climate Orbiter. It was launched in 1998 for the purpose of observing the planet's climate, and more specifically to see if Mars had water on the surface. But on September 23rd, 1999, it fell hitting the surface. NASA lost contact with it and it fell hitting the surface. The reason being was because there was a miscommunication error and they miscalculated the trajectory. The reason why this is such a big problem is because the entire project costed $327.6 million. Now you may be wondering why we still use the imperial system if it's been proven to not only be inefficient, but also put people's lives in danger. Well, after showcasing the various problems, let's look into how the imperial system came to be and why it's still a problem today. According to Harold Carey on elearning101.org in 2008, it was created by normal everyday people using their actual body parts in order to have some kind of base for measurement in order to accomplish everyday tasks such as farming or trading goods. And as Britain conquered many parts of the globe during the 18th and 19th centuries, it brought this unit of measurement with it, making it the standard system of the British Empire. In the meantime, the metric system was gaining popularity during the French Revolution, and it was put in place to unify the country at the national level. So by the second half of the 20th century, it became popular in many parts of the globe when many English-speaking countries began using it. Now, for as to why it's still a problem here in the US, let's take a look at this clip of Vox's video, Why America Still Uses Fahrenheit.
Even America attempted to switch over. The change would have been good for trade and scientific communications with the rest of the world. So Congress passed the law, the 1975 Metric Conversion Act, which led to the United States Metric Board that would educate people about the system. This created the only metric highway sign in the US, the Interstate 19 connecting Arizona to Mexico, but it didn't go much further than that. The problem was that unlike the UK, Canada, or Australia, the law made the switch voluntary instead of mandatory. And of course, people resisted the change and the metric board couldn't enforce the conversion. So President Reagan ended up disbanding the board in 1982. The next nudge to Metricgate came when the metric system became the preferred measure for American trade and commerce in 1988, but nothing really stuck with the general public, even though bizarre measurements like feet and Fahrenheit are not doing them any favors.
Now that we have learned how the imperial system came to be and why it's still a problem here in the US, let's end with the solution and its benefits, shall we? Metrification is the process that a country goes through in order to adopt a metric system, and there are various ways to do this. The first being the Big Bang method, which India used in the 1960s. They metrified the entire country in just 2 years, and they did this by completely outright outlawing the use of imperial and only accepting the metric system. The next method was the phased-in method, which is observable from Britain and Japan. Both of these countries started their metrification in the late 1800s, and it's a much slower version of the process. The way they did this was that they first taught the system to their children, then they nurtured their knowledge with everyday items such as food and groceries, which then led to the implementation of road signs and the price of groceries for when they were older. Now, one of the benefits is that it's easier to understand. Linda Anderman on her website, More Than a Mile Behind, found that when the metric system was first invented by John Wilkins in 1668, the European literacy rate was only 60%. She concluded that it was designed for anybody to be able to understand it, regardless of whether or not they could read. Here's a graph showing the imperial system and the metric system, and there are conversions for both. As you can see, the imperial system is quite inconsistent and inefficient, whereas the metric system, being based on prefixes, goes off of tens, hundreds, and thousands, making the process much clearer and concise. Another benefit to adopting the metric system would be unification with the rest of the world. As I stated earlier, the majority of the planet already uses it. Here's a map showcasing the countries that do and do not use the metric system. The United States, Liberia, and Burma are the only countries left on the planet that still use the imperial system. Luckily, there's a chance for us to change this. On the website petitions.moveon.org, you can sign a petition initiated by Parker Wiley Jr. that almost has the 500 signatures he needs in order to send it to the White House, the House of Representatives, and the Senate. And you can contribute too. I myself am the 417th signee, as you can see, and all you have to do is search metric petition into Google, go to the first result, and sign. Today, I explained why the United States should adopt a metric system by covering first, the various problems with the imperial system and the reasons to change. Second, how the imperial system came to be and why it's still a problem. And lastly, why metric measurement is a solution and what you can do to reap its benefits. Now, I know it may not seem like a big deal to you, and the fact that we still use these old, outdated systems may not affect you personally. You do have the power to change it for the better in someone else's. Just keep in mind that this would be one step forward towards the United States becoming unified with the rest of the world and the human race becoming one with itself. Thank you.